A lot of you know me in the community. Started with Vietnamese Chamber. I was on the board of ABAOC. I was an ambassador with the Filipino Chamber. Now I'm on the board of ABA-LA. So I'm still with the ABA family. And let's see. We'll start. Oh, maybe I should talk about what I do. During the day. I work with visionary leaders. I work with very visionary leaders who need support on execution, turning their ideas into reality. And some of the projects I've worked on include 360 Clinic. We were the largest COVID testing operators in Orange County. Let's see, we had drive-through testing facilities at OC Fairgrounds. We had Anaheim Convention Center, scaled up to 300 team members within months during the pandemic. I worked on the Dalai Lama Library and Learning Center. It's a $15 million fundraising project. We broke ground this year in April in Ithaca, New York. Center is slated to be built by His Holiness's birthday next year in July. And let's start with Tanya. Tanya, I met Tanya through Impact Giving. I sat through one of your panels, I believe, and immediately afterwards I reached out to her and inquired about her services. Within the same week, she was hired. And at the time, I needed a little assistance with personal branding. It was really difficult for me to talk about myself. I'm used to doing things for others, and I needed somebody to help me craft my message. Whether it was my mission, to kind of hone in on my values. And I don't know, Jeff Bautista, are you in here? So Jeff initially helped me with my initial messaging, and I hired Tanya to help me refine it as I had a few accomplishments under my belt over the years. So Tanya, you can kind of dive into a little bit more about how you got started, because one thing that you taught me was it wasn't about bragging about myself. It was about telling others what I can do to help them.
Yes, so maybe I can share a little bit of my story of how I got to this place, right? So I went to UC Irvine, studied psychology. I've been a lifelong student of the human condition, and I ended up going to work for a nonprofit that helped women and pregnant women and women with children get sober. I was there for 12 years. And my first day on the job, I get there, I'm like 21 years old, I'm like, tell me what to do. And there was an alumni event happening. So a group of women who had been through our program were there for fellowship and that kind of thing. So I went, and then I kept going back every week, and I got to know them, and I said, tell me your story, like, tell me what you've been through. And so they would share their stories with me, but so often it was really rooted in the shame and the guilt of what they had been through, right? They were talking about feeling like a bad mom. And so rarely did they talk about the courage and the resilience that they had in asking for help and getting sober. And I think that's so typical of us as women, right? We don't brag. We focus on where we went wrong. And so that experience showed me, because as I watched these women grow into their own right, I saw how they were able to advocate for themselves in their jobs, in their families, maybe in the legal system. Wherever they were able to advocate for themselves. And so that taught me that the story that we have about ourselves, it becomes the story that other people see about us too, right? But we have to be really intentional about that. And so in December 2020, I left that 12-year career at the nonprofit, and I decided, us as women, we have to be able to tell our stories and do it proudly, not feel like we're bragging, but just be rooted in that story. Because I think when we share our lived experience, that's what attracts other people to us, because they see their journey reflected back in our journey, right? So thanks for letting me share a little bit. I'm so used to helping other people craft their narrative. I really kind of share mine, so thanks for that.
Big fun. I've heard the story as to how you became a lawyer and how you were tricked into being one. Now, if you can share with everybody.
My name is Big One Brown. I'm a partner at Tressler LLP. I lead the National Employment Practice Group, and I also chair the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group in our national law firm. Thank you.
Brother. That's a proud brother.
That's my brother clapping. So he's a big part of this story, but we were raised by a man. We were raised by a general, and we were born in a war-torn country, Vietnam. And we came over here as refugees. Our mother died at a very young age. She died before she was 50, or had just turned 50. My brother and I were 6 and 8. I had just turned 8 when my mother died. So our father raised the 5 of us on his own. He never remarried. And so he would make up stories. And so he said that my mother was an attorney in Vietnam. He said, you are exactly like her, you look like her, you talk like her, you have the same personality, and she was a fabulous attorney in Vietnam, and you are gonna, if you wanna be an attorney, you're gonna be great. So fast forward, you know, and no sibling denied this. Nobody contradicted this. So fast forward to my dad's funeral in 2012, and after everything was done, we were sitting around and talking to my mother's brother, my mother's younger brother, who had come to my dad's funeral from Australia. And I said to him, so I understand my mother was a great lawyer in Vietnam. And my uncle said, no. And I said, well, she maybe she was in law school. She was a law student, right? My uncle said, no. And did she teach? You know, did she teach law? No. Your mother taught classical piano in the elementary school. So my father, who's a single father, widow, never remarried, just made up the story, and my siblings went along. And growing up, so I had my doubts, and I said, I think, you know, being a lawyer is going to be too hard. And my sister said, you know what, let's take a walk down to the municipal court, and I'll show you. All they do is just shuffle papers around. It's really easy. So we walked down there, and we looked in a courtroom, and sure enough, there were lawyers up in front shuffling papers around. I don't know how she did that, but that's exactly what they were doing. And then later on, I said, you know what, I think it might be too hard to be a lawyer. Maybe I should just be a paralegal. And my sister, 10 years older than me, said, why would you be a paralegal when you can be a lawyer? And so there's always that kind of support. That's long story, sorry about that, but that's how I became a lawyer.
Thanks for sharing. May Rose, you have some career reincarnation. You were a teacher, a travel agent, and now if you can share the inspiration behind Picnic with Me.
Okay. My name is May Rose Marquez, and yes, as Linda had mentioned, I was a teacher for 17 years. 3 years ago, I took the leap of faith and left that career and made a change. And since I love to travel, I actually work for a travel company. Since COVID, I was laid off from that position, and in August 2020, I decided I would start a pop-up picnic business. I don't know if you're familiar with this or what this is. So a pop-up picnic company is we basically set up a picnic at the beach, your backyard, at the park, just anywhere where we could actually set up this beautiful picnic setting. So low tables, pillows. So really it's basically just a beautiful tablescape, just outdoors. So that's basically what I do. I thought that I've just always enjoyed picnicking, and it just really comes very natural to me, and I truly enjoy it. And when Linda reached out to me and asked me to be part of this panel, I'm really honored to be up here right now, and because I basically started all over again. And I know that that's usually very difficult, but my message is, if you love something, it's not work, it's not a job. And if you're enjoying it, it's fun. So thank you.
Congratulations on 100,000 followers on Instagram.
Thank you.
Moving on to obstacles that we faced. For example, I'm 4'8". I'm considered cute. So I have a little bit of a challenge of proving myself and having to carry myself in a different manner in the room. Do you want to touch upon some of your obstacles or challenges, self-doubt. There are times that, and it's part of me hiring you, what you have shown me is to create that alter ego, if you want to touch upon that.
Yeah, I mean, how much time do you have, right, to talk about obstacles and self-doubt? But the first time that self-doubt really started coming up for me was about halfway through my nonprofit career, because up until that point, I was really behind the scenes. I was writing grants, I was coordinating events. And in about 2018, as I became the executive director of that nonprofit, there's no way around it. I was going to have to become a face of our organization, a face of our mission. And that can feel uncomfortable, right? You're taking off the security blanket, you're ripping off, and you're getting visible. And so, my imposter thoughts, my itty bitty shitty committee started talking to me in that moment, and it said a lot of things like, everyone around you has a lot of credentials and letters next to their name, and you just have a BA. And it said, who are you to be asking for these 5, 6, 7-figure donations when you can't write a check that large? And the biggest thing I remember is the people around you at these boardroom tables don't really look like you, right? I'm like 5 foot something, I was 30 years old at the time, I'm a South Asian woman. I just didn't see a lot of other leaders who looked like me. And imposter syndrome can really rear its ugly head when you just don't see a lot of other leaders in the public eye, right? It's hard to be what you can't see. And so I think I overcame that, yes, by coming up with an alter ego and stopping, not listening so much to my inner critic and creating my inner mentor, because she is there within all of us. I also found a group of women who I could talk to about this and realized I was not the only one. In fact, if any of you do not occasionally experience self-doubt, I'd be more worried about you than if you did. And the other thing I'll say, and I'll try to say this quickly, is I'm still on this path and journey of realizing that what we call self-limiting beliefs, like imposter syndrome, perfectionism, people-pleasing, they're not self-limiting beliefs. They're systematically limited beliefs, because we live in a world where classism, sexism, racism, ageism is baked into it. And so I reject the fact that there's something wrong with us. I think there's something wrong with the way things are. And so if we are given these office housework tasks, right, we're delegated to the note taker, to the coffee picker-upper, I don't think that there's anything wrong with us because of that. I think there's something wrong with the way things are. So framing that more, that's not my personal problem, right? And then the last thing I'll say, and thank you for letting me hog the mic for just a little bit more, the last thing I'll say is really learning to reframe what expertise means. I think you're never going to be able to get as many credentials and years of experience as you want to apply for that job if you don't feel like you deserve it in the first place, right? So I think by reframing expertise and realizing that our lived experience carries those pieces that we need to help those next people to where they want to go. I mean, think about when you took a tour of college, right? Or maybe you're doing this with your kids right now. It's not the dean who's giving you the tour, right? It's not a professor, it's a freshman who's like just a few steps ahead of you on that journey, and that is the right expert to be showing you the way, right? Because you have that same relatability. So anyway, I think those 3 things really helped me overcome that self-doubt, and that self-doubt is a natural part of the process, and you got this. You got this.
Did you catch what she said in the beginning? It was the itty bitty shitty committee. Love it. Big Bun, would you like to touch upon your rise at Tressler?
Sure.
Two-partner.
Sure. Yes, and you were asking about adversity and obstacles. And as a Vietnamese refugee, everyone knows that we lived adversity. We had major obstacles in coming to this country and assimilating. When I started this firm, it was 6 years ago, and I was an associate, and I had been an associate for a while, but I took 7 years to stay at home with my children, 2 boys now 17 and 15. So I came from a different path. I looked different than everybody, and then when I sat in a deposition room or I went to a courtroom to argue, nobody looked like me. So at first I tried to fit in, then I realized that I had to always prove more, right? So I was always tested. And let's say I'd be in a deposition, and even though through the years I gained experience, There was always someone across the table, because there's no judge in a deposition. It's just an attorney across the table, and you're basically fighting with the other attorney. And they're trying to make you feel like you don't know what you're doing. So I attended as many seminars as I could. I saw so many panels. I did everything to figure out the things that I needed to know that I didn't learn in law school. And so while the other attorney could spout things off at me, I knew the code of civil procedure, and I knew what was appropriate and inappropriate inside a deposition. So obstacles, that was a huge obstacle that I faced, being 5'2", looking the way I do, actually being pretty soft-spoken and shy as a child. So I just knew I had to prepare more than the other side. Now I don't face that as much, just because I'm so involved in the community. I'm a leader in the Orange County Bar Association Labor and Employment Group. I'm part of groups like NAPABA, National Asian Pacific American Bar Association, National Conference of Vietnamese American Attorneys, and I'm on the board of the ABAOC, Vietnamese American Bar Association of Southern California. A lot of acronyms, but I'm surrounded by a lot of support by people that look like me. And the people that don't look like me, don't get me wrong, my husband doesn't look like me, my last name is Brown, okay? The chairman of our firm does not at all look like me. He is the oldest Caucasian person in the firm, but someone had told me, make friends with the oldest Caucasian person in the firm, okay? Because let's face it, they're the majority in America. And he started the firm 36 years ago, and I'm his favorite, and he doesn't hesitate to say that. So just be prepared, work hard, you can overcome any obstacle. If I can do it, you can do it.
May Rose, I know you hit some obstacles with city limitations. Would you like to touch upon that?
Yes. So as a pop-up picnic company, we're very new in the industry. Nobody really knows exactly what we do, so I always have to explain what it is. So my explanation is, think of us as a small-scale event planning, because really we are a small-scale event planning. We have tables, just low tables. We don't have chairs, but we have pillows to sit on the ground. So that's how we differ from an event, a big-scale event planner. And yes, as far as the limitations, I literally call the city, every city, the Chamber of Commerce, whenever I have a client that would like to have a picnic at the beach. So I live in Hermosa Beach, and for example, Manhattan Beach. I've called the city numerous times. Each time I call, it's always different. I always get a different answer. Newport Beach, for example, I actually was almost shut down from one of my picnics because I set up at one of their parks, and I didn't know that Corona Del Mar was actually part of Newport Beach then. They almost shut me down, and that was a Sunday, the following Monday I got a call from the city. So we're not supposed to set up, simply because for various reasons, libel reasons, there's just all sorts of reasons. Some reasons I just really don't understand. So that is my obstacle right now, and I'm hoping that one day that they will actually understand and allow us to actually set up at the beautiful parks and also the cities, because some cities will require a permit. I've been very fortunate that Hermosa Beach owns their beaches, and I just also recently joined the Chamber of Commerce. So now they know who I am, and that makes such a big difference. But that's one of the obstacles. The other one is just trying to fit everything in my car. Playing Tetris just to manage to fit everything in the car, the tables, the pillows, everything. So, but overall, it changes every time.
Quick one, you touched upon a lot of the associations that you have joined. For me, I'm networking 3-4 nights a week. It's really important that you're building relationships. And I touch upon relationship building rather than transactional building. And it's important to foster these relationships over the years. I've been taught that you give before you ask. What other support systems would you like to give credit to? You have your brother here.
My brother, definitely, right there, the president of the ABAOC, has supported me 100% from day one. He is exactly like my dad. He just keeps me going and gets rid of any doubt. We have two associates sitting right there. If you'll stand up, Kayla Whitley in the red, and Jihoon Kim. So Kayla and Jihoon are associates. So when I started Tressler, I was an associate, and then I became a partner. And as a partner, you're expected to develop your team. And so I found Kayla because, she found us. Her mother was my freshman roommate at UC Irvine. And so I don't know if Kayla wants me to tell a story. It's such a great story. Her mother said to me, my daughter's a third year at UC Irvine Law School, and her friends are getting job offers. Can you just take her out to coffee and talk to her? And at the time, she wanted to go into entertainment law. And we were employment lawyers, and she said, can you help me with this? And so I just reached out to all my lawyer friends to see if anyone knew an entertainment law position. Eventually, she left that firm. She hated it because there were terrible people there. And then she went to another firm, and then I grabbed her. And then Jihoon Kim was actually our client. He was general counsel, and when he was no longer there, I grabbed him too. So they support me tremendously, tremendously. My brother supports me, my family, my sister supports me. My sister was my first marketing person, both my sisters. When I was running for student body office, they supported me, and I learned the value of getting your name out and having people help you, so you're not lugging all this stuff around all by yourself. So family and people at work definitely are my huge support group.
Thank you. And I know, Mayrose, you have hired since, so you do have help.
I do, yes. Finally, I have somebody who's local that assists me with all the hauling of all the things that I need, especially at the beach. It is really hard, and I had no idea then. I thought a beach is a beach, the sand is the same. No, they're all different. As far, it's just really hard, but I really do enjoy doing it.
You do love it.
I do. I mean, I sweat out there, but I still love it.
And she takes the time to do Instagram reels at the end of the night. I don't know where she finds time to do it. Apart from your kids here, right? Your children are here to support you. Is there anybody you would like to thank?
Yes. Well, of course, my biggest supporter are my children. I actually have three. Two of them are right here in front of me. And also my biggest supporter as well is my sister, Jean. She's not here, but she's always there whenever I'm in a bind as far as needing assistance. She is there for me. She will help me. She will haul stuff for me. She'll make flowers for me. So she is one of my biggest supporters, aside from my children, of course. And of course my friends. Linda, one of them.
Tanya, I know you're very active in the nonprofit space as well, and that's where your career started. If you could touch upon maybe other community groups that you're a part of, whether it's women's groups or networking groups.
I mean, you and I met through Impact Giving, which is a women's collective giving organization based out of Laguna Beach, and I love that because we all give, not a little bit, but we all give, and together we have such a great impact that we individually would not have otherwise been able to have philanthropically. And also in the nonprofit world, that's where I really learned about the strategy behind building a strong board. We are not supposed to have all the answers. We can't know everything. And so in the nonprofit world, we would figure out what skills and talents we did not have and actively go out and recruit board members who had those talents so that they could help us be a stronger organization. And so I think we can take a page out of that book, and as we build our own personal board of directors, think about, what is it that we don't know how to do? For me, maybe it's finances or just different things like that, and look for people who can counsel me and guide me in that way. And then of course, business besties, that is so important. Entrepreneurship can be lonely at times, And so my friend Tiffany is here. She and I are also, we kind of met through the VC nonprofit community. And you know, I just think having people that you can just call on the fly and say, this weird thing happened, can we talk about it? What do you think? I think that's super, super important.
And I do want to touch upon, you know, a lot of times we join women's groups because we're looking for that support, but I do want to give credit to the men out there as well. Jay, Jeff, Tom, Pramod, they've been so great in giving me the resources to meet others. And I do want to thank Ed Lee, co-founder of Wahoo's. He's been really tough on me at times when I have self-doubt. And I reach out and I'll share with him how I feel, and he was pretty tough on me, but it's much needed support. And it pushes me forward each day to have that belief and to lean into my alter ego and plow through my day. So thank you. Okay, I'm trying to get through the questions because I know we're short on time, so I'll do this as our last question. Outside of work, outside of your career, what do you enjoy? And I'll start. I love to go to pop-up events, local pop-up events, and check out new businesses, small businesses. I love supporting small businesses, and that's why ABAOC, these chambers, ABA, LA, you know, I loved the opportunity to meet up and coming business owners. I love 80s music. Jay knows that. We've gone to quite a few 80s concerts. Part of a monthly wine Wednesday with Mayrose and I. Every first Wednesday of the month, we have a standing appointment in our calendar. We meet every month, but it's an opportunity to just kind of talk about our challenges and kind of highlight our triumphs for the month. And if you want to touch upon, you know, what do you enjoy doing?
Yeah, sure. Well, I love to travel. I'm getting ready to go to Italy next week. Very exciting.
Yes.
Love to read. And then I also actually really enjoy working out, not so much for the physical benefits. I mean, that's obviously a cherry on top. But I think for me, why working out is so interesting and helpful is because it's a practice, right? Like the first time you go to the gym, you try to lift a 500-pound barbell, like you're going to be in a world of pain. Like it's not going to be a good look. And so you have to ease into it. You start with a 10-pound, right? And then a 20-pound. And I think that's the same for anything in life, whether it's thought leadership, whether it's growing in your career. I think it's always a practice. And so, I mean, through there, I get to learn what like a good stretch feels like, what too much feels like. And you know, when you work out, your muscles are literally ripping apart and then growing back together. And so I think that I think it's a good allegory for what we do in our careers and our lives in general. So, yeah.
Thank you. You're fun.
Oh, I like extreme sports. I discovered stand-up paddleboard yoga, which is really fun. I like sailing. I like surfing, watching surfing. Photography, that's not so extreme. And anything water, anything hiking for really long distances in the redwoods, things like that. And I have to go to water polo games, and my children, and plays. Those are their interests. So swimming, water polo, plays, that's what I'm kind of obligated to do, so I make myself like it, because those are my children's interests.
Oh, you did touch upon your love for rock music.
Rock music?
Rock music.
Oh, that's right, I'm starting a band. And let me ask you, what do you think of the name GAL-AHS? G-A-L-AHS? GAL-AHS?
We came up with it over the weekend.
For a band? No?
You like it?
Okay, great. I'm learning to play the drums.
Mayrose, I've followed your Instagram. You love traveling. You have a love for desserts.
I have a sweet tooth, yes, that's for sure. I do love to travel. The things that I like to do is, obviously, I love spending time with my family, my 4 grandkids. So I love doing that, and I do like to support the local businesses also. Whenever there's a new shop that pops up, especially if it's a coffee shop and they have pastries, I'm there. And love to eat. So I will try new places as well. But most of all, I do enjoy biking. I love biking and picnicking and wine tasting. So those are the 3 things. Whenever I travel, biking is usually one of the things that I must do. So regardless of whether it's here local in the US or outside of the country, it's something that, it's a must that I must do. So those are the things that I do enjoy doing.
Thank you. Jay, are we good on time? Do we have time for Q&A? Yes? Okay. Anybody have any questions out there? Anybody? Oh, Jeff's coming.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Seema, and I have one typical question for all women we have is how do we balance between family, business, your hobbies, everything? How do we balance everything? Any key points that you would like to share with us?
I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this question since I do not have children yet, but what I will say is I think we need to get really clear on what we say is important to us and then compare that against what's actually on our calendar. And if we say what's important to us is not showing up so much on our calendar, I think that's a little bit of a sign to try to reprioritize, right? What do you think?
I set goals for myself and for my children and prioritize them and calendar everything and try to be as organized as possible. I've heard this question on every single women's panel, and some people, and I agree with them, they say the what balance? There's no balance. You just try to stay afloat.
Definitely putting it on the calendar. That I've learned. Missing things from some, meeting some of my events from my children. So my children have actually taught me to use is it the Google Calendar? Yes. On the phone. Yes. Because I'm old fashioned. I like to write things down. So yes, so I've learned to do that, but definitely writing it down. I do make it a point to spend time and away from my business.
I'll touch. As Ben mentioned, there is no balance. And you mentioned Tetris. Each day is just like Tetris. Some days my family takes priority. Some days I miss out on, I don't go to my daughter's evening recital. I've missed those and I feel extremely guilty, but I have to weigh what's more important. And so there is no balance. It is like Tetris. There is no 25% for each bucket. Some days it's 50%. Some days I need an entire day off and it's 100% for me. That's the answer. That's the answer I have. There is no balance.
Can I? Thank you very much for giving an insight into your struggle and in your experiences with us. I got a different question for you guys. We all heard about the troubles and the pains and the struggles that you had to undergo because of being a woman entrepreneur, right? Have you ever got the reward for being a minority woman or as a woman? Because in my business, I have been advised a couple of times that, hey, make your wife a 51% owner of the company and a lot of doors will open to you because of minority women-owned businesses do get some privileges, right? So talk to me a little bit about that. Have you ever got benefit out of that?
I don't have any minority certifications. I don't know if anybody wants to touch upon that. We don't have any minority. None of us have any.
Even without certification, have you ever got advantage because you were a woman entrepreneur, and a lot of companies and governments, they encourage women entrepreneurship, right? A lot of organizations.
My firm is owned by, let's see, there's 13 capital partners and 2 are women, so we are not women-owned. We're trying to get there. I have never received an advantage because I'm a woman. Maybe I have and I just didn't realize it. Maybe someone thought I was cute and hired me for something. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. But you know, you use what you have, right? If you are a woman and if you can do the work, if you want to prepare for whatever position, or if you want to get a bid, you work your tail off and you get it. I haven't seen any advantages given to me. I've been asked a lot of times, are you a minority-owned business? Are you diverse? And I can't answer, I can't say yes to those questions right now. In the future, I would like to. I'd like to take my firm to that level. Right now, it's just not there. Good question though, thank you.
Most of the picnic company owners are actually women-owned, so there are a lot of us out there. So I have not really had that disadvantage. So it's hard to really touch on that subject.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, there's stats to share that a great majority of the new businesses that are being started every year, you know, this year, last year, are women of color started. You know, they're founded by women of color. And so I think as that continues to grow and flourish, I think that these female business owners will also be looking for other service providers who can relate to them, who have similarities to them, and have similar stories to them. So although I've not, you know, I wouldn't say I've experienced an advantage per se, I see that being a trend going forward.
I could think of one advantage. This is an inspirational women panel, so maybe I was asked because I'm a woman to moderate.
Yeah, I want to say our California Supreme Court Justice Goodwin Liu is from Yale Law School, and along with some Yale law students, did a study called Portrait 2.0 or something like that. And in that study, it tracked people for Asian people through the whole law school process, getting into a firm, and it found that with Asians, especially Asian women, they tend to drop out. So they become an associate somewhere, and all of a sudden, they just go somewhere else. Maybe they work for a nonprofit, maybe they work for the government, they go somewhere else, but studies have shown that there's zero advantage to being an Asian woman in law. So that's why I think I get asked to talk at a lot of panels because I'm kind of an anomaly, but I was raised by a man, so.
May I? Yeah. So this is the last question I'm told. My name is Sonal, and I want to take up Naveen's question just for a bit. I think where he's coming from is, and the reason why people view it as women having advantage is because across cultures, if you look at it, women have really been the support or the backbone of any family, of a man. We often hear a saying or an adage to say, behind every successful man, there is a woman. And into bracket is telling him that he's wrong. So the point here is that I think the reason why we read about, or you said about 51%, it being a woman-owned company, is more from the intent of encouraging. It's more from the intent of having a woman come out and say, okay, because you don't learn right from the beginning. Our upbringing patterns in our families are very different. We treat a baby boy differently. We bring up a daughter differently. We have the pinks and the blues, and now we're all going towards yellow, which is a great thing. So to your answer, I think it's more from the intent of encouraging women to come out and say, there are these guidances. So traditionally and across board history, you hear men, men, men everywhere. And so it's more from that point, from my understanding, to your answer. And it just so happens that when women get that, they feel that, okay, at least I have a support system. So that. As far as my question was, I was actually going to ask Tanya, the last question was, can you tell us a little about your work? Because you mentioned about being part of nonprofit, but I'm a little curious about what is Loomis marketing. What is it that you really do?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for asking. So Lumos, if any of you have read Harry Potter or are familiar with it, Lumos is the spell for illumination. And so my work is really, I have a thought leadership consultancy. So I work with female founders who traditionally have been conditioned to not speak up about their work, just work hard, and hope that it pays off. But I think in this day and age, we have to speak up for our own work, or it's not going to speak up for itself. We have to put our accomplishments out there so that other people know how we can help them. And so really, like Linda said, I work with women to extract their brave story out of their journey and position them as trusted experts, especially on LinkedIn, so that people can find them when they're looking for when they have the problem that we solve. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
I think we're out of time. Thank you, ABAOC, for having us, and thank you, everybody.